All right, guys. So let's go ahead and do a quick midday recap. Then there's so much good action out there this morning, and I just wanted to again just congratulate everybody that did such a good job this morning in chat. There was tons of good teamwork and a lot of good alerts, and I got a lot of messages from people today that have done well with some of these ideas on ATW and IDXG, and yeah. So let's go ahead and just go over some of these trades. The ones that stood out to me the most was obviously IXDG this morning. The idea on this one was to basically look for a bit of a morning flush and then a rip through high day. This one, we pretty much had identified that pretty early on that if this broke through 170, we'd probably see a pretty harsh reversal on it. And a lot of the time, the reason why we draw these lines, is just to identify these key areas that they either need to hold, or if they break through, they're going to be full reversals usually. So, also congratulations Shane 5DMY for his long swing overnight on this one. So he had a long from 94, was it, or 96 last night, and he sold partial into 148, I think, after hours, and today into 168 this morning pre-market. So just a monster trade. Awesome job. And he's been doing a little more swing trading lately with his IB account. So yeah, congrats again. And then we had a couple people message me this morning that took a long from the low 50 area, sold into the 80s. And congrats to Trade Addict for his shorts on the 150 lower high that we were mentioning earlier there. So if you missed the 170 crack, waiting for the bounce, waiting for the lower high to enter. And this one I still think looks good for a 120 break, eventually at some point today, most likely. Let's see, we have ATW. So that was a setup that we saw in the mid 90s there, in the low to mid 90s. So we had a bit of a cup and handle, and it was on this consolidation that it started to look good for a potential $13 break. And the pattern was pretty good in this one. This is what we kind of look for a lot of the time, as you guys know, a pretty big move up, followed by a correction VWAP retest, and then we kind of had this. You can really see the cup and handle pattern here. So here's a cup, and then we held the higher low. This little consolidation is a great spot. You can just risk under 90 here, and then anticipate the breakout. So congrats. I don't know if he wants me to say his name, so just congrats to who took that trade and was patient with pieced it out along the way, but was patient with the 1/4 size for the full on reversal. So that is ATW, and then a couple stocks we wanted to keep on watch this afternoon is OPXA, where this is kind of an unfortunate miss for me because. We had the idea early on with this one. Remember, we saw the VWAP reclaim. It was alerted by Shane. The idea in this one was just to look for a consolidation over 115. That way we can get long risk off of VWAP and look for that high day break. Well, I actually ended up missing the entry in that one. There was a lot of stuff moving today, so I missed the entry. When I looked over, it was too late. But hopefully some of you guys got a hold of OPXA, another A-plus setup, a nice chart. For this one, what I'll say is it's still possible to find a trade on it maybe later. So now that 125 sort of prior resistance is broken, what I'll be looking for next is for that to become support. And so if we can get a nice little consolidation over lunch, sort of over 125, and then have this moving average come back under it, and the VWAP come up to support it, little consolidation over this 125 to 130 area, we might find ourselves a nice setup for a new high day breakthrough, basically 150 later on today. So again, with the proper intraday setup, we could find a trade on that one. So OPXA is going to stay pretty close to the top of my watch list this afternoon. So for OPXA, again, we'll just be keeping an eye now on. So 115 was the original idea for a possible buying consolidation. Now I want to see 125. IDXG, we got 120 is sort of the breakdown area. So late day today, if this, the main thing for me with IDXG is I just want to see it stay under 35 for a while. So the 135 area was kind of an important spot. It was a bit of a pre-market support area, and then we broke through it, kind of popped up. It needed a bit of a bounce. I mean, if you look at the size of the move we had here, we needed that bounce. But now it's putting in lower highs, and this one again, just I think Trade Addict kind of nailed it. He got it, got in, sized in, pieced it out along the way, and he's just avoiding this noise. But with some patience today, keep an eye out for a possible 120 break. If it hangs around here too long, it might need a VWAP retest, so it could bounce as well. So I don't really like to play it in this area, but if you're still holding some short, you're probably in okay shape to continue holding it for a while, but make sure you take your profits along the way. SDRL was another decent chart out there today. This one I missed, but someone else alerted in chat. So again, just the participation in chat has been really, really good lately. And you guys know exactly the setups that we're looking for. And so it really helps because everyone's just kind of looking for the same thing. And so it really helps everybody, keep more eyes in the market and keep everyone up to date on what's moving. And there's even a couple today that I missed, and someone, the chat room actually helped me realize it was moving and put it on my radar, like shame with the OPXA. So STRL had a nice little run up today. It almost looked like it was going to set up again in here, but it didn't quite do it. Now, usually around 11:15, as you guys know, 11:30, I stop looking for long positions, let things come back in, let them retest VWAP, and then look for setups late day. So pretty much into the lunchtime period here now. Kara was a nice mover today as well. I didn't get any trades off on this one. And it was kind of a tough one to catch. It just kind of ripped. And then there was a bit of a setup in here, but it really just was a tough one to catch. So Kara was nothing for me today. SSH, we're hoping this one was going to give us a trade, but it didn't give us the setup we're looking for over that 85 area. So that's what I was looking for. So yeah, guys, a lot of good action out there so far this morning, and I think we're gonna have a few good trades into the close today as well. JB, are you with us here? While we're waiting for JB to come back and talk about some of his trades or setups from this morning, I had a question from somebody. So there's a few people that have been consistently, newer traders who have started to find some consistency in their trading, and so they're starting to ask about sizing up a little bit. So this is something that I have some interesting experience in, because I used to work for a prop firm, and what they did with the prop firm, and this is in my early 20s, is they actually use an algorithm to determine how much your daily stop loss should be and when they should allow you to increase size. And I kind of stuck with that as a way to sort of encourage people to progress. So the way that the algo worked was in a very basic kind of way, is if you had like 3 or 4 positive days in a row, it would kind of calculate the amount, like your average win day, how much the average win was for those 3 or 4 days in a row, and then it would kind of adjust your daily stop loss allowance and share size accordingly. So as far as sizing up goes, like if you find that you're doing 2, 3, 4, let's say 3 or 4 green days in a row, and just to keep the metrics simple, let's say that you're still just starting out and you're doing $200 a day on average for those 3 or 4 days. I still recommend keeping a pretty tight daily loss limit, and that's another thing. With the early prop trading I did, it really taught me the importance of the daily loss limit. Now, another thing is, there are times where it was frustrating because I would hit the daily loss limit, but then a really good opportunity would come by that I would have taken and I would have made it back on. But I think the whole idea there is just to protect the firm so that they don't get exposed to a lot of risk. And a lot of the time when people are down on the day, they start gambling and really throwing money back at the market to try to make it back. So I think if your average winning day is like $200-300, and that's like 2 or 3 days straight, you don't really want to lose more than your average winning day in a day. So I mean, like, your daily stop loss should be like $300 to $400. That way, if you have a bad day, you can basically make it back in 1 or 2 or 3 days. I think we've all been there where we take a big loss and then you have to look at it and go, oh man, like, this is probably going to take me 2 weeks to make back, and that's just the worst. It kind of puts you in a negative mind frame, and it can be kind of detrimental to a newer trader who doesn't have the psychology part down, or just the experience to know how to work through challenges like that, mental challenges. So first of all, before sizing up, just know what your average sort of win day is for the last week, and make sure that your daily stop loss limit, try to keep it at or around your average win day, so that you don't find yourself blowing out a week's worth of work because you sized up one day. Size up slowly. So what they used to do was we would start with a few hundred shares. This was when I first started, again, like 10 years ago. After a few win days, they would up it up 200 more shares, and then 200 at a time, and then before you know it, you're starting to trade 1,000 shares. But after a losing day, the algo would wind you back. So after a losing day, the thing to do is to back it off again. Go back to what works for you. Go back, because what's going to happen likely is you're going to find that it's a bit more emotional when you start using a little bit more size, right? What I want to make sure that you guys, if you are sizing up a little bit, what I want to make sure that you're doing is still comfortable with your trade plans. So for OPXA, a typical setup for us on the long side, if you know that you're playing off this consolidation over VWAP, and your buy signals, let's say you start in with a quarter size or a half size here, your stop is just below VWAP, and then you add through this little mini breakout level here, and then you raise your stop up just under the consolidation, right? Now, if you can't sit through that now, if you're getting too emotional to actually let the trade play out as per your plan, then you're simply using too much size and you need to back it off again. All right. So the most important, some people say, and I agree with this, is you can actually make more money with less size if you're less emotional. So if you find that even just upping it a few hundred shares or whatever it is that you're doing is affecting you psychologically in a way that you can't stick to your trade plans, or if you're going to get, really nervous and shaken out, that's why I think that you need to kind of flex. It's kind of like going to the gym and building a muscle. So a little bit at a time. So if you're currently trading 500 shares, brand new trader, not brand new, but like maybe 2 months in, you're starting to find some consistency. You learn the setups, you know how to trade them, you know how we manage risk. Now you want to go from 500 to 1,000. Well, why not start with just 700 for now? See how that goes for 2 or 3 days. Maybe like me, you want to scale into your positions a bit. So let's just say you're doing 800 shares, then start with the 400 entry on the consolidation with a very low risk. So let's just a very hypothetical example here. 115 consolidation, what we were looking at in OPXA. You see the consolidation, you like the pattern. You start with 400 shares at 116, and your stop is, let's just say, let's just say you're going to give it a little bit of room in 110. So it's like a $24 starting risk. And then you want to add through that little peak right there, anticipating the high day break. So then you just add your other 400 through there. Now you're going to move your stop up just under the consolidation period. And you should be able to let that work for you. So just try to let it work. And then you guys know, as usual, through high day, piece some out on the trend break, sell a little more, hold some. Say 25 now is the area that I'm watching. You can see it's already starting to consolidate in that spot. So you wouldn't really have any reason to fully sell the rest of the position just yet, but you definitely would have had a reason to take some profits. And now we can just look for a consolidation, and maybe we'll get another trade in this one. I wouldn't be surprised, but we still need it needs more time over lunch to set up for us. So just to kind of put that in review, when you're sizing up, little bits at a time, so just 200 share increases, 300, whatever it is. Make sure that you're still sticking to your trade plan. Make sure that you're not getting too emotional. You're still comfortable with every trade. Obviously, it's going to be a little different, and you do have to get used to being uncomfortable, right? So if you're a bit uncomfortable, that's okay, but still need to stick to your trade plans and let the trades play out. All right, you don't want to find yourself kind of like buying, through this level, adding to your position through this level, and then stopping out in that wick right back down to it because you're just a little scared to, of the size. And I think the most important thing though is that what I do is, when I have a losing day, or if I have 2 in a row, which is rare, but it happens. The third day, I'm sizing way back down. Just go back to what works. Sizing back down, emotions are out. Just show myself that the process works again. Show yourself that you can find those setups and trade them properly again, and then just slowly back up again. So it's kind of a delicate balance, but if you find yourself, wanting to try a little bit more, and it's been 3-4 days of consistent profitability, have a daily stop loss, keep playing the same setups you've been doing, stick to what works, but just use a little bit more size and try to manage your emotions and manage your trade plans as you normally would without letting those emotions get in the way. But I've heard a lot of people say, and I agree, that you can still make pretty good money with smaller size. There's less emotions. You can let the trade work for you more. So it really goes back to what I always say, which is there's no one size fits all. It really depends on your personality type, and we want to sort of tailor a trading system that works for you. So all of our setups are going to be the same, but how you enter the setup might be different than how I like to. So I scale into my positions, in and out, and my trading partner and our moderator JB, who's an incredible trader, he has a specific setup that he's looking for, and he takes the whole size at once. So it really just depends on what kind of trader you are, and so we need you to kind of experiment and figure that out. And you'll learn pretty quickly. You learn a lot about yourself from trading, and you'll learn pretty quickly what works for you and what doesn't. And it just takes a few tweaks and adjustments. But did that answer your question well enough? I mean, basically what I'm saying is start slow, have a daily max loss limit, keep playing the same setups, and if you do take a loss with bigger size, this is the most important thing, and this is what I talk about in the learning curve video, is if you do take a loss with the larger size, the next day go back to the smaller size and just go back to what works for you again until you have 3 or 4 more days of consistent profitability, and then try it again. So that's a super important point. All right, if you start to size up and then you take a loss and then you try to come in the next day with the same bigger size and make it back, that's where things can start snowballing. It's going to be too emotional for most people, and it's not the way to make it back. So always after a losing day, back off the size. Remember to be patient. Go back to 1 to 3 A+ trade setups per day. You know what you're looking for. You know what we want to trade and what we look for in our charts and in our setups. So JB, are you back with us here, man? Because I was hoping to get JB on to speak of a few things with us, talk about his setup on MBCN, but it looks like he may still be gone. So I'll what I got from the MBCN idea that JB had was he had the 24 entry. He was looking for a high at daybreak. He sold a partial at 31, and I love this. Even though this trade didn't break high a day, the trade management on this one was this is classic JB. The fantastic entry, super low risk. Take a partial profit along the way, and then if the trade doesn't work, you can get out for a flat or just a 1 cent loss on the second part of his share. So this one had potential to reach 40 plus. And look, I know that the stock is a turd, but we're talking about just a trade. This is just a trade. It's a setup that works, and his entry, I believe, was 24. I'd have to scroll back through the chart. I think it's 24, and the stop was 22, so it was a 2 cent risk. He got some out at 31, and then he stopped the rest out down at 22 here. So a profitable trade, not a monster trade, but those are the kinds of setups we're looking for. And this is kind of goes back to like the difference between different traders. So for me, I would have definitely needed to see a higher low here. I would have stopped that out for flat. I'm a little tighter in that sense, but if it held a higher low here, I'd be looking for that curl back around and definitely a breakout through high a day. So when it didn't hold the higher low, that's where I lost interest in it. Anyways, JB is a phenomenal trader, and he's been just crushing it lately. And with him, it's about quality over quantity. He may only have 1 to 3 trades a day, but you've seen how successful those trades are. The probability of his trades are extremely high. He's an awesome trader. So that is pretty much where we're at for the morning, guys. So going into the afternoon, I'm going to be watching IDXG. Potentially watch this one for a breakthrough 120. That's if I'd actually like to see it. I don't know if it can do this, but once the VWAP catches up, I want to see a rejection of VWAP. So I'm not going to trade it here again. But if we get back and retest that VWAP and reject it, and then it sets up for what looks like a good possible short into the close, I'll be looking for a 120 break and lower. That's a big if, so it needs a proper intraday setup. I don't want to mess with any chop on it. It just needs that good setup for us. So IDXG, OPXA. This one's going to be on my screen for short today. Unfortunately, you know, it actually did have a nice little correction there under 125, which is actually, to me, it's a good thing. I like when we see the 125 area. So we got a little consolidation, broke through. Now we're reclaiming it. If we can consolidate over 125 for the afternoon, we may find a nice trade in OPXA. So I'll alert you guys in chat and over the stream, of course, if I take a trade on that. SDRL. This one needs some work. If it gets back over 82, I'll look at it again. Yeah, and ATW, which again was just a real monster this morning. I love the chart, love the momentum. It had a nice dip under VWAP. We're back over VWAP now. Look for some consolidation on this one. Maybe we'll find another trade on it later this afternoon. So I hope that helps with your ideas. I hope to give you some ideas on sizing up and what to look for and what to watch out for and how to manage the risk properly. Just reach out to me if you have any questions and let me know how it's going on Monday. If you do decide to do that, just reach out and let me know how it's going so far and whether you're finding any success with it or what your struggles are with it, and I'll kind of help you tweak it up a little bit. And maybe the best way to get you comfortable with it would just be to do like partials, scale in the way I do with partials, so that the risk is initially really low when you enter the trade, and then once it starts to work for you and your thesis is correct, that's where I add to the winner. So we'll work on that together. And again, congratulations on a really great morning, guys. Thanks for all the great alerts in chat. Love the teamwork, and let's have a great afternoon.